Hello and welcome to Rob's Retro Reviews, where in this video we're going to be going through my top 20 most anticipated games of 2019. Maybe also 2020 for a couple of them, but I'm hoping they all come out this year because I can't wait to get my hands on them. So, let's kick off this list by talking about my least anticipated game and then working our way up to my most anticipated, starting with Kingdom Hearts 3. I'll be honest, I'm not really that excited for this one. I mean, I'm excited enough for it to be on this list, but I don't think I'll be picking this up on release. I don't know whether it's the long wait since the last main series entry, or whether it's the massively convoluted plot that's gotten out of control that's putting me off. But there's something about this that I'm just not feeling. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay looks as tight as ever and the worlds are some of the most interesting and diverse we've seen in Kingdom Hearts. And to finally have an ending to Sora's story will be amazing. But I'm going to wait for a while before diving into this, I think. Next we have a Nintendo game about a little woolly creature who I quite like. It's Yoshi's Crafted World. I played Yoshi's Woolly World back on the Wii U and I even got the Woolly Yoshi amiibo because he's just so goddamn cute. But what we're looking at here is a bit of a filler Switch game. Not that that means it's going to be bad, but it's nothing groundbreaking either. And it just looks like a fun 2.5D platformer to kill a bit of time. You've got to admit, you can't deny the cuteness of it though. The number 18 spot goes to a little indie game called Untitled Goose Game. I hope it's actually called that when it comes out because I find that to be really charming. I don't really know a lot about this beyond the premise, but that alone is enough to sell this game to me. You're a goose and the objective is to ruin people's day. Sign me up. It's a fun idea for a short indie game, and just like the premise, the graphics also look very appealing to me, and it looks like a charming little experience. I'll probably pick this one up on release if it's got a reasonable price tag. Number 17 is a hotly anticipated Switch title about cute creatures looking after a town. It is, of course, Animal Crossing 2019. Do you want to know a secret? I've never properly played an Animal Crossing game before. But what better way is there of getting started with the series than by getting the newest game on the Switch? I've always sort of been intrigued by Animal Crossing and wanted to give it a go. It seems quite relaxing developing your town and improving your house and doing the menial tasks required to do all of that. The one aspect I don't really like though is waiting in real time for stuff to happen. But yeah, I'll be giving this a go when it's out for sure. Number 16 is yet another Switch game. When we learn more about this one it could go way up the list. But for now, we hardly know anything about it other than the fact it exists. It's Pokemon 2019. Before playing Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, I was a bit more excited for this one, but to be honest, I've kind of been put off by how formulaic and similar the Pokemon games are to each other. It's just becoming a bit repetitive at this point, and I know exactly what to expect from Pokemon. The reason this is on the list though is because there's a slight possibility that this new core Pokemon game could change up the formula drastically, making it substantially different to anything we've seen before. Ideally, what I would like to see is way more in-depth character customization, more multiplayer functionality, a way bigger world with a ton more side quests and things to do, and more variety in gameplay styles. Potentially even get rid of the turn-based battle system completely and have it be more action-orientated. That last bit might not be a popular opinion, but I just think there needs to be a huge switch up to the Pokemon series to get me to really care about it again. Number 15 is yet another Switch game, and for some reason all of the Nintendo stuff is on one block on this list. And this is another one that we don't really know that much about. It's Metroid Prime 4. I've only very recently finished a Metroid game, so I'm probably not as hyped as most people about this one, but even so, it's hard not to be excited by such a big upcoming Switch game like this. I've seen quite a bit of the Prime series, but never had the chance to play it much myself. I'm pretty sure I would like it. It's a first-person exploration game with puzzles and bosses, so it sounds like my kind of thing. And what better time to get involved in the Prime series than with the new one, I guess? And guess what the next game is? Another Nintendo game that we don't know much about, you say? Yeah, you're right. It's Luigi's Mansion 3. Again, just like with Metroid Prime and Animal Crossing, I've actually not played very much of Luigi's Mansion at all. This does seem way more up my alley than the previously mentioned Nintendo games though. Being a horror-themed puzzle game, I guess that's what you would call it. It's a bit of a difficult game to categorise, to be honest. It's a shame Luigi's Mansion 2 didn't come out on Wii U, because I probably would have got that, but seeing as it was on the 3DS, I never really got around to it. Not that I have anything against the 3DS, it's just for a game like that, I'd rather have it on a big TV. So with Luigi's Mansion 3, I finally have the chance to do that. With number 13, we're leaving Nintendo behind and looking at something a little bit more scary. It's the Dark Pictures' Man of Medan. This is an interesting premise for a series of games. The Dark Pictures is going to be an anthology of horror games which I assume are all set in the same universe or have some sort of connection to each other. But at the core, they're completely separate stories. I'm a big fan of Until Dawn, and this is being made by the same team, so I'm even more excited for this than I would otherwise be. Anyway, the first episode of the Dark Pictures is called Man of Medan, and it's basically a ghost ship story where a group of friends get stranded in the middle of the sea and end up exploring a weird ship where there's strange happenings afoot. I've not watched any of the more recent trailers for this because I want to go into it knowing as little as possible, but yeah, this definitely looks like an interesting one. Number 12 is a game I'm excited to see more of, just because I've never seen a game like this, on this scale anyway. It's Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is the new game by Sucker Punch, the team behind the Sly Cooper series and the Infamous series, so they have quite a lot of pedigree in the game development world. It looks to be an open-world samurai game where you can use stealth to defeat enemies and take part in some tense sword fights. If you think of a traditional samurai film, it basically looks like the game of that. I'm a fan of the Tenchu series, and seeing as that's pretty much a dead franchise at this point, I'm looking forward to something that has a similar vibe to that. Number 11 is the only VR game on this entire list. If anyone knows of any other VR games coming out that look good, let me know, because I only really know of this one. It's Blood and Truth. I've been looking forward to Blood and Truth for years now. Ever since I got a PSVR and played PlayStation VR World's The London Heist, I've been waiting for a full game based on that. But even before I had a VR headset, I thought this game looked really cool. The London Heist was one of the short games featured on PlayStation VR Worlds, and was this action game set in London where you play as a gangster who gets involved in a war with a rival gang. Things obviously go south and you need to go through a robbery and several gunfights, and it just feels awesome, and it's an amazing showcase of PSVR and the Move controllers. So Blood and Truth being a full game based on this short experience is obviously going to be awesome. It looks like they've refined every aspect of that initial experience and added way more content to it. This will most likely end up being the VR game of the year. We're in the top 10 now, and number 10 is going to a little indie game that looks like my exact sort of thing. It's My Friend Pedro. My Friend Pedro is another game that I've been looking forward to for what feels like ages. It's a shoot 'em up which has an emphasis on dual-wielding oozes and killing your enemies as stylishly as possible. Shooting in 2 directions at once, doing flips, skateboarding through windows and then kicking the skateboard at a henchman's head, throwing a saucepan into the air and using it to ricochet bullets around corners. It just looks awesome, and I can't wait to see how smooth it is to control. We're sort of in the indie section of the list now, because my number 9 spot goes to yet another hotly anticipated indie game. It's Spelunky 2. The first Spelunky is simply an incredible game. It's infinitely replayable, being tough to beat but always fair, having randomised yet also very well designed levels, tons of rarely obscure secrets, and plus an awesome soundtrack. Not that much has actually been said about Spelunky 2, but you don't really have to say much. So long as it keeps the spirit of the first game and adds more content on top of that, it's fine with me. Also, it's a really good co-op game, which I always appreciate. Ending off the indie section of the list now is a game that was announced way back in E3 2017, and because of that a lot of people have probably forgotten about it by now, but I remember. Number 8 goes to The Last Night. Ever since The Last Night was initially revealed, I've been waiting for its release. It's a cinematic platformer, my favourite genre of games. being similar to Oddworld Abe's Odyssey, or to use a more recent example, Limbo or Inside. Where this game's different and stands out though is in its visuals and its theme. It's a pixel art cyberpunk adventure, but it also has an element of 3D, kinda like how Octopath Traveler did its graphics. But this looks even better in my opinion, and the gameplay is way more appealing to me. This is a definite day one purchase, and I really hope this does come out this year. Number 7 goes to a game that feels like it was announced quite recently, but it's actually been quite a while since its initial announcement. At first I thought it was going to be Bloodborne 2, and if that had been the case, this might have been number 1 on the list. But instead, at number 7, we've got Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. This is the new game from Software, the developers of Dark Souls and Bloodborne, and it's kinda, sorta like those I guess, but it's also very different at the same time, which makes me both apprehensive but also very intrigued. There's no character customization, no leveling up, the ability to get back up after death without losing progress, an emphasis on stealth, and no armor or weapons to pick up. On the surface it kinda sounds like a more watered down Dark Souls, lacking a lot of the features from that series. But I have a lot of faith that there's a lot of depth to this below the surface that we're yet to have seen. The major thing at the forefront that separates this from Dark Souls or Bloodborne is that you now have a grappling hook that allows for a lot more vertical movement. It looks a lot more open and free than any previous FromSoft game, which is very exciting. It's being published by Activision though, which is both weird and worrying. Hopefully it's not filled with loot boxes and microtransactions. Number 6 is one of 3 remakes coming up on this list, and while this one looks the least impressive, I'm still really excited by it because of how much I like the original. It's Medieval. It's no secret that I really like Medieval. I did a review of it back in October and it still holds up in most ways. The graphics have obviously dated and the controls can be a bit clunky, but it's still very enjoyable and has some really cool visual design and a lot of variety because of its level design. This year though there's going to be a remake of the original game and I'm really liking how it's looking so far. It looks extremely similar to the original, which is good, but I'm hoping it adds some more content onto the base game, and it's a given that the controls should be updated too. I'm also hoping that the charm of the original isn't lost. The voice acting in particular was amazing and made me chuckle a lot throughout. So I'm going into this with quite big expectations and I'm hoping it meets them. Number 5 is the sequel to the best first-person shooter of this generation. It is of course Doom Eternal. Doom 2016 was a bit of a surprise hit when it came out. I don't think anyone was expecting very much of it, but when people got their hands on it, they were surprised to find that it was the best first-person shooter in years. It kept the DNA of the original Doom and simply modernised it, making it faster, more violent, adding more weapons, more locations, and more story and lore, without it detracting from the gameplay. It's a game all about blowing demons' heads off, and it does that exceptionally well. It knows exactly what it is. Now, the issue is that the follow-up to Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, already has this extremely high standard to live up to. And it not only needs to live up to it, but even surpass it. And I just worry that because everyone loves Doom 2016 so much, it's gonna struggle to do that. Still, if they stick to the design philosophy and don't make things too complicated, I'm sure this will be good. The developers have proven they know what they're doing, so I have faith in Doom Eternal. Here we are at the second of 3 remakes on this list, and this one comes out really soon, the 25th of January to be exact, so you don't have to wait very long to get your sweaty little mitts on it. It's Resident Evil 2. This was one of the most surprising reveals of E3 2018, and when the trailer began I was guessing out loud what it was, only for none other than Leon Kennedy to appear in the doorway and for me to shout Resident Evil 2 in shock. I already knew this was being developed and I've been waiting for more information on it for literally years, and for it to look this damn good, it makes me really happy. This is the first really big game of the year for me, and if it's as good as the trailers have been making it look, you can expect to see this on my Games of the Year 2019 list. Anyway, this is a full-on remake of the original Resident Evil 2, but it now takes place from an over-the-shoulder third-person perspective, popularised by Resident Evil 4. And they seem to have changed the layout of the police station as well as making certain characters more prominent, which I'm a big fan of. The remake of Resident Evil 1 is one of the best game remakes ever, potentially even the very best game remake ever, and this is shaping up to be even better than that. I can't wait to play this, and it's out really soon too, later this very month in fact. We're in the top 3, and also the final remake of the list too. Anyone that knows me probably knows what this already is, but for those that don't, it combines 3 of my favourite things. Kart Racers, the PS1 and Crash Bandicoot. It's Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Ever since the Crash Bandicoot N. Sane trilogy was announced, I think it's been a given that a remake of Crash Team Racing is on the way. It's the most obvious, natural way of progressing the series, and it's going to make all of the fans of the original games very happy. I can't overstate how much I love the original Crash Team Racing, so this remake has a hell of a high bar to jump over. But from what we know so far, it's on track to doing that. It has online multiplayer, as well as 4-player split screen, unlockable character skins, new karts to choose from, and potentially has some new tracks being added that weren't in the original game. I've done a whole review on the original Crash Team Racing, and I've also done a video outlining what I want from a Crash Team Racing remake too. So yeah, I've been anticipating this for a very long time, and I can't wait to play it. You can definitely expect a review of this after I've played it for sure. Number 2 is a strange one because despite not knowing anything about it, I'm still gonna get this on day 1. And the reason for this is because I have that much faith in the game's developer that this is gonna be amazing. It's Death Stranding. This is the new game from Hideo Kojima. That sentence alone is enough reason for me to instantly buy this on day 1. But if you need more, it looks like it's an open world exploration game with elements of horror, where you're delivering strange packages to unknown clients while being stalked by strange Lovecraftian entities who have the ability to basically set off nukes at any time they want. They also seem to like dragging people into weird black liquid too. There's so much symbolism hidden in every trailer and so many secrets to be uncovered in every bit of information Kojima gives out about this game. And even then we don't know very much about it, even after several trailers. I'm extremely excited for this, and I'm also enjoying the secrecy of the project. Still, I do hope we see some actual gameplay at some point soon, but then again, it would also be cool if nothing more was shown and the game just came out. How awesome would that be? We're finally at the number 1 spot. Any guesses as to what it is? It's the sequel to a game that leaves me thinking about it for ages every time I finish playing it. It's just that impactful. I'm of course talking about The Last of Us Part 2. The original The Last of Us is a masterclass in telling a story in video games. The way its characters are developed to make you care for them, and the shocking ending sequence that's left ambiguous while also being conclusive enough to be satisfying is amazing. And the game as a whole is a scary, violent and emotional rollercoaster that's mostly unmatched by any other video game. While the gameplay itself has its flaws and could be considered a bit formulaic, everything around that is simply incredible. The Last of Us Part 2 has an issue because it needs to follow up this incredible game. How it can in any way match the original game in quality, I have no idea. But I'm extremely excited to see it try. Even though Ellie and Joel's story really didn't need a second part, I'm happy it's getting one, and I can't wait to see what's happened to them since the first game. Hopefully Part 2 will fix the one issue the first game has by making the gameplay a little bit more varied and less cookie cutter, and if it does, it could, just maybe, be better than the first game. But how you follow up the plot to The Last of Us 1, I have no idea, but I'm excited either way. That's the end of the list. I hope you enjoyed it. There are of course some games coming out this year that I didn't include on the list just because they didn't quite make the cut. So things like Metro Exodus, Crackdown 3, Super Meat Boy Forever, Team Sonic Racing and Days Gone. They all look good, but just not quite good enough for me personally. Anyway, let me know in the comments what your most anticipated games of the year are, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what your most anticipated games of 2019 are, and if you want to see more content like this in the future, give this video a like and consider subscribing. And until next time, bye!